Thank you, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. We've got only 50 minutes. So just to tell you, it's always very intense, and I'm laughing behind because I know what you're going to be experiencing today, and it's a bit of a hardcore amount of information. So hopefully, you guys ready for that? Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. Perfect. So let's start. So as you already know, I'm Paula J. This is a very difficult last name because it actually comes from Poland, but it's pretty easy as well. Paula J. It's I guess enough. And always, yeah, as you can imagine, when I'm ordering a food in a hotel and I'm calling like for the room service, it's like I like pick up the the button and the phone and press the button. Here we go. And sometimes I just hear the laugh, and that's really strange. It's like, why are you laughing at? It's like, because I cannot pronounce your last name. Yeah. So I was like, okay, burger and fries, please. So anyway, as you can see, well, I'm in the cybersecurity field for the past 20 years. It's a really interesting journey for sure. And my company, Secure, being here also in US, in Dubai, Switzerland, Poland, is right now 15 years old. So it has been a very interesting journey for sure, because I started by myself and then we've got 65 people on board. So things changed, and you were here because you were interested in cybersecurity, but 15 years ago it wasn't really that much of a case. And I started with doing pen tests, and I was doing that for all of my life. And there's this moment where I decided to switch a little bit into the incident response. And that's also what this session is going to be a little bit about, because it's a lessons from the field. So what we learned, how potentially we are, or hackers are getting inside, or we as a pen testers are getting inside, and how, of course, that whole attacks are happening. So that is basically the background. As you can see, I'm also Microsoft Regional Director, but I do not work at Microsoft, for the reference. It's an interesting title, yeah, because it's a Microsoft, it's a director, it's regional, but it has no region, and I'm not a director, but it's a good title. When they, of course, gave it to me, I took it. So this is for the being innovative in the technologies. But I really like to talk, which I believe you're gonna see, and I'm sharing, of course, together with my team, information, tools, research, whatever is out there in cybersecurity, so that hopefully you guys can make some use of it. And at the end, this could be a little bit more beneficial. So for the reference, you can, of course, sit and relax because the slides are also there. This is the QR code. If you don't feel comfortable scanning it, you can always put on the link. And this is the place where you'll be able to download the slides and the tools that I'm going to be using during the session. So that is important, and I'm going to return that back at the end. But there's a little disclaimer: whatever we're going to be doing today, it's for the educational purposes. Yeah, so I'm not doing any evil, but I would love to show you how you are able to get access to the infrastructure in the certain ways. So yeah, let's start. Impact of the cybercrime. First of all, I really like to start with stats, because stats are like never wrong. They could be less and more accurate, of course, but in general they set up a direction. And as you can see, we can see that 95% of the organizations that experienced data breaches had more than one breach. So things are happening again. Also, we can see that, and that's also interesting, 50% more of organizations suffered a ransomware attack in the first half of 2023 compared to the first half of 2022. And I would say, is this surprising? Yeah, not very much surprising. And the reason for that is because there's a money in it. And as we know, the average salary of a hacker approximately is $30,000 per month. So for lots of people, it's just worth it, and that's what it is. And we can just expect more amount, a bigger amount of attacks, and I'm sure you are hearing it all the time, but that's what we see also from our customer side. But anyway, let's get into the story. So case study, retail hell. You know, there's this situation where I was like, you know, it was Friday, and I was just about to relax for the weekend, and I'm receiving a call from the customer that, hey, like, check out this email, please, would you mind joining us for the Teams call, because we have a big incident. Now, this customer, it's a brand that I'm pretty sure you would know. Yeah, most of you will know. It's a famous world brand in the retail. Yeah, so just imagine the one you know, and it's big and it's kind of like that. So at the end, what is also interesting is that I'm joining on a call, and don't get me wrong, yeah, it's my perspective, so I want to share it with you. I'm joining, and there's like 40 guys on a call, and they're all asking me what to do. That feels good, yeah. It's really funny. So you know, like, but of course I'm not saying that to the customer, but inside I'll tell you, I'm like, but anyway. So the point is that I'm like, okay, but you tell me first what happened, yeah? And they're like, see, that's the point. We don't know what happened, but what happened later on as it appeared is that there was someone that brought in the pen drive to one of the computers in the stores that obviously had some bad stuff that distributed, which appeared to be ransomware, and then from like over 3,000 stores across the whole world, that thing was communicating out to the global firewall that they had, and that global firewall took a decision, let me say it this way, so that they're going to prevent the traffic. And that's it. So technically, kind of nothing happened, but there's this flip when there's a big drama, and there's no drama. So obviously I asked the CISO, like, what would it be if it actually went through and if your computers in the stores were encrypted? And he said that will be a complete massacre, that will be a huge cost, we will need to shut down the stores because we will not be able to service payments, and then we will need to send the team members, consultants, whatever, to every single store to recover it manually. Just imagine, what kind of cost is that? And it's just like a firewall takes a decision thing, yeah? So of course we started to clean things up, but the point was that because they did not really know what was happening, we had to spend some time overnight. You know, this is the stereotype IT role that I'm putting myself into. I truly eat pizza and I truly don't sleep, and my boyfriend truly brings me food almost like under the door, and then 4 nights pass, and then we know basically everything about this incident, and we know what happened, so that's why I told you, and at the same time we clean up everything so that there's like no possible situation that that thing is going to be returning again. But the infrastructure is so big, and when we have no information about what's going on, it's so hard to actually get into conclusions. And conclusions is what matters in the incident. So what was wrong? Lack of monitoring and intrusion detection. Same local administrator password, yeah? So what can I say? Yeah, no comments about that. But they were managing machines through the VNC. That's also a little bit specific, yeah? No network segmentation, missing different updates, yeah? Missing vulnerability management. Anyway, lack of proper training, and of course I could tell that because of the first question that I received on a call. So question, of course, at the end is that, is really hacking that easy? Because, yeah, we can imagine really like, you know, advanced team doing some cool stuff, but let me show you something, and let's start with a warming up demo. So what do we have over there? There's like a James Bond, and we're going to be playing a little bit with misconfiguration, let me put it this way. Antivirus, as you can see, this is turned on. Yeah, we can check out, everything is here, good, good. Yeah, so antivirus is not really preventing from this attack, for the reference, yeah. So when we're going to get into the setup over there within the disk, we will need to play with the text. Yeah, so for example, you've got the Kakao, which is like part of the Mimikatz toolkit, let's say, and of course I cannot run it. It's just a proof so that you can see that we cannot run it because antivirus is on. But who cares really about antivirus and all the other stuff if we can actually rely on the misconfiguration, and that's the best part. So in this case, James Bond is going to be the guy that's going to be configuring the running activities through the scheduled task. And we might think, well, that's actually pretty easy, to be honest. But on the other hand, we need to be aware about one tiny thing here. So let me just set it up. So over there, what we're going to be doing, we will be setting up as well the script. And within the script, we will just say that, okay, it's going to be like a whatever text document or something, script.cmd, and we will need to rename it. And over there, that script, when it runs, is going to be our proof that things went well. All right, so that's going to be like a simple demo type of a thing. Proof point. Now over there, we will need to change the path. So we've got a C script, so it's going to be the scripts as we've got in this folder, we can rename the folder, but we can also do that. And over there, as you can see, we are creating a user hackme, password1 dot. We're adding that particular user to the domain admins group. Okay, well, we know. And then at the end, just to be even more evil, we are using the admin as the holder to assure ourselves persistence. Yeah, so why not? So just for the reference, as you can see, even though as a user right now I'm trying to do it, as an administrator, local administrator even, I cannot do it because I have no privileges whatsoever in the domain. Yeah? So that activity will be the one that's going to be executed over there, so that we got an assurance, of course, that our method that I would have to show you actually works. So everything is beautiful and everything is in place. So that script CMD is going to be running on a certain schedule. But the interesting part about the schedule task, I will tell you, is that if you want to impersonate into someone, you don't need to know this person's credentials, as long as you can, of course, create the schedule task. So if you're going to get into the task scheduler, you can see that we can create here a basic task. So that's easy, and that particular basic task is going to be actually running, let's just call it like ABC or something. It's going to be running as a user. Here, it doesn't matter how we're going to be specifying the schedule, whatever. Start the program, you know where we are going to. We're going actually to the script. So here we go, that's the script CMD, and then we go next, and then we've got finish, and then we've got that little thing, but then when we go to the properties, we can see that it's set up to run as a James Bond, so as myself right now, yeah? So, well, that's not necessarily the case. Have a look. Run whether the user is logged on or not, and run with the highest credentials, and even though I would say like, okay, I want to do it as James Bond, I have to put in these credentials, but there's actually a very interesting method of setting up that you want to run it as someone else. And as you see over there, while we've got, of course, the James Bond over there, we can set up what kind of users are potentially logged in. And if we do not have privileged access management, and we had even a disconnected, but still a session over there, disconnected but still a session, then we can set up and find who is actually our potentially domain admin over there, or that guy basically from the task, from the schedule task, and then we will specify that we want to run it on admin, and in this case admin, it's a Yoda master. Okay, fine. So then our admins from the raccoons domain is going to be actually running that task. But then do we need to wait really? No, of course not. Yeah, so what we're going to be doing is that we can actually run, as you see, so here the trigger doesn't really matter, so we don't want to wait, as you know. We can start actually either at logon, but then when someone's going to be logging on, yeah, it's again time. So there's a better way of doing that, actually. And it sounds very easy, and it in fact is easy, but you need to be aware of that what we can do, we can actually just click run. And then it runs, as you can guess. So overall, what we got over there is simply the script that, as you can see, we have added, and there's a completed successfully case, and we have added user to the domain admins group. How terrible that is. It's just a warm-up, yeah? So apologies for like being so intense, but also you can see that hacking is easy if we know what we are dealing with, and if we know what kind of possible misconfigurations we might have. So, shall we start? So whenever we are thinking about these items around these lessons, that I decided to call it lessons because these are lessons, then one of the things that comes to my mind is an investment in the human factor. And that sounds very easy. We know this is important, blah, 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 security awareness. But the thing is that when you look at the most serious attacks in the industry, it's ironically funny, where do they start? And they start with something ridiculously small, and then you are like, whoosh, facepalm, because apparently, like, you really invest into security, but then there's this little thing that someone finds, then unfortunately hits you. And that's why we have such a hard job to do, because we have to predict all these things, and hackers have to find only one thing. And that's also exciting when you are a pen tester. Why am I saying this? Because sometimes we may actually start with some simple things. And why human factor? Because people should really have strong passwords in all of the places, not only for the services that we are using inside, but also for their personal things. And let me show you why am I talking about that. So what we got over there, it's a situation where we're going to be simply performing password spray. But password spray is easy, yeah. But we're going to use password spray as a tool. So let's log in, so secure, and then the password. We're going to use it as a tool for the next step that is actually pretty often allowing me to become a domain admin in the environment. That's why I'm saying always that pen testing is actually quite boring, because you always get in and it's just not exciting, yeah? So when you get into users.txt, you've got the users, yeah? So we could have like collected these users maybe from a LinkedIn or something. Yes, it could be any really source, yeah? Or it could be even an internal thread, who knows? So using that kind of a users list, which may not be complete, by the way, we're going to be performing the password spray. And what kind of passwords we would choose? Well, usually we could choose something like spring related, summer related, weather related, city, company name related, yeah, month related, so something like that. And we all know that this is in general a very, very bad case. And at the end, we should be not really here thinking about like whether it's a good password or not, because sometimes users are using the passwords that aren't always perfect, as we know. And for that, we're going to be using the crackmap exec, so that we're going to be attacking the domain raccoons.pl with the password, for example, spring24. And why not? Yeah, just for the example. And you know, like there's always this one hit that you got. And you don't need more than that. You need one hit. That's the thing. So we are checking right now what kind of users we've got over here. And one of the users, of course, might not have that kind of a password. I'm going to use Polish passwords, Marzec24, which is March 24. And then you can see that, oh, Jeremy Brooks, in fact, has that kind of a password. Now, if you want to be ethical here, don't do more than 2 or 3 times, because there are different thresholds that companies have, and you can really block that company out. So, yeah, we're going to be using, of course, the Jeremy Brooks account, because Jeremy, being a domain user, has a possibility, and here's where the party begins, ask for the service principal names. So whenever we've got a service account, yeah, and we want to avoid service accounts to be actually, let's just get there, being in a situation where we're going to be using the NTLM version 2 for the authentication, let's just get the event viewer, then we're going to be here checking what is the service principal name. But you can see that because, for example, we run that crackmap.exe, then we are able to see that once we were checking that password, then we've got some audit failure, logon, yes, so there's like Benjamin Turner logging on, and we just need to, of course, review the log. But what is really interesting over there is that we've got the log of, okay, that's not really what we want, and the 4624, this is the classic event where we are seeing over there the logons, yeah? So here, if we go to the bottom, yeah, that's just like not many details. So if we don't have a good information collection, it's actually a bit challenging to find it. So we have to like browse through and find that logon events. So here, perfect, the computer attempted to validate credentials for the Jeremy Brooks, and this is basically the place that after that, we've got the 4624, where we have Jeremy Brooks logging on. And this is the logon type number 3, which would indicate that if the user is using logon type number 3, then it's probably that kind of a password spray, because users normally do not log on using the network logon, and that is the type number 3. So long story short, we can see that, user logged on with the type number 3. So that's already a little bit suspicious, of course, if we are gathering this information. So the next stage over there, let's get in. We're going to be leveraging, of course, the service principal names. So the service principal names that we got are added on the top of the service account to avoid the NTLM version 2 logon. That's very short explanation, of course, but that's more to assure the Kerberos authentication. So Arrow app image so in packet get user SPN, service principal names, and then we are checking that from that Jeremy Brooks angle. So you can see that in here, we've got 2 accounts that Jeremy Brooks sees. It's all from the domain user perspective. We started from 0. And we can see that there is an SVC8 immigration, this account, and there's another one, which is a Joshua Lynch. Okay. So of course, we can verify whether there is a legit service principal name for each of these accounts. And in fact, we're going to do that. We can see like what was the password last set, and at the same time, we can see maybe what this was used for, and the quick verification every domain user, by the way, can do, because for that, even as a domain user, you can do the set SPN -L, and then we can, for example, copy that name, so the SVC AD migration, and put it on over there, and then we will be able to see that, yes, indeed, there is a service principal name for that. What does it mean? It means that you, as a domain user, and everybody really, as a domain user, can ask for the Kerberos ticket. But that Kerberos ticket, it's going to be, unfortunately, encrypted. It's going to be encrypted with that user's password hash. So SVC AD migration's password hash, for example. So, of course, we will need to crack it. But if we're going to do that one for the DC $1, you can see that over there, we also have for the domain controller lots of names, because every object has this like that. So what we're going to do in here, we're going to do request, and we're going to specify output kerb hash, where we are requesting for the tickets for that service principal names. Now, if we're going to do cut kerb hash, you've got over there really, really nicely, have a look, presented the ticket that is basically for Joshua, for example, and now we can take that guy, and then very, very peacefully, we can be at home drinking nice cocoa, hacking that particular Kirby TGT, because that's what everybody does, right? But anyway, long story short, we're going to be using John for that, where we will need to specify the format. So we've got a format Kirby 5 TGS, and then we've got the RockU dictionary, which some of you might be familiar with, pretty common, and then kerb hash, and then of course we are cracking it and running it through the whole dictionary. And what comes next is that we will just need to wait for the moment. We're going to be learning that particularly over there, there's going to be actually the password being cracked for, in this case, all the accounts that were with the service principal names. So at the end, it's a very exciting adventure, because you can actually start from as a nobody, literally as a nobody, let's just wait a moment, and then become, of course, some privileged user, or at least some kind of a user, not only by using the password spray, but also by using the cracking for the service principal names. So that's basically how it usually works. So this time it actually works, and it's quite a long time, but at the end we will be able, of course, to get that particular password. So long story short, summarizing, yep, and as you see, that's perfect. You can see that we've got the Superman 22, and this is basically the password that here was actually used by Joshua, yeah. So very simple, very, very simple, and starting with nowhere and ending up with another account, which, because it's a service, it might be actually a little bit more privileged. Okay, guys, so just a quick summary so that we are learning something today as well. We've got the number 3, network logon type. And that is basically something that always brings trouble. Normally you are logging on with a number 2, which is interactive, or number 10, remote interactive, for the virtual machines as well, by the way, if you're using the RDP session, and so on. And of course, we've got other variants too, but when it's number 3, yeah, it's usually technical things that are using number 3. And that network logon is basically something that brings trouble, especially when it's used by the users. Depends how you use your infrastructure, of course. Okay, absence of an insight, looking for persistence. One of my favorite subjects, honestly. So when there is an attack, you have to know what happened. And then you are like there, and there's this big infrastructure in front of you, and then you have to seek for all the leftovers, little sneaky places where hackers possibly left something. And it might be actually like that scheduled task. It might be admin as the holder. It might be, for example, something that we got around outruns in general. It could be, for example, the golden ticket. It could be the data protection API certificate that also is super serious in terms of a complete domain violation. So there's so many ways how you can actually have fun as a hacker. Now, whenever we are thinking about this persistence, here I listed a couple of items that you might find actually useful when you are looking for something interesting. But the problem is, tools. And you know what? Here's the story. And the story comes with demo. So the story is that when I was analyzing the incident at the customer side, I took one of the guys, like juniors, and I was like instructing him what to do. And then he's saying that, no, there's nothing on this machine. I'm like, I don't believe you. There is no way, like this, the answer is no. There must be something. And then he gave me an output from Autoruns. And I'm like, aha. So Autoruns is very often expected to be displaying you things completely. Like you open Autoruns, you got things. Nothing more wrong than that. So the reason why I'm saying this is because, and it's a simple thing, you've got here users. And these users, yet they do basically show you the different settings from the user's perspective. So, for example, you might have something that is in the current user that is in system, or you might have things that's in the current user that is, for example, in the admin. And have a look what's the difference here. So we always have to review all the users. So that's just like system look, yeah? And that's from the user administrator over there, where you can see that there is an additional entry that we've got within the current user. So if you're going to run it with the highest privileges over there, then you're not getting everything. You're just getting things for that user. So it's a common, easy thing, right? But it's a common mistake that I'm seeing. Also, let me show you something more reveal. Now, this is the most up-to-date version of Autoruns. And I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But there's always some buts. Anyway, here I'm hiding Windows entries and I'm hiding Microsoft entries, these two. So I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. There are like two entries that are possibly dangerous, this and that. Yeah, so we can have a look. And for example, this is run DLL, and I can see that, let me alert it, within here that run DLL is actually running some kind of a DLL with an export. Okay, so yeah, spotted. But we could assume by mistake that if I will hide Microsoft entries, it's kind of okay. No, what's even more, if now it's like the same look almost, but if I unhide the Windows entries, so like the most detailed ones, now have a look what I'm getting here. It's 4 items. Now, what is the dangerous item is this one. So what is the conclusion coming out of that? And let me show you. Is that over there, when you hide Windows and Microsoft entries, by mistake, that entry, being dangerous, it's not shown. So we trust our tools, but is it really the case? And of course, the risk is low because the tools are getting better. But the knowledge is the most important thing, your knowledge, so that you know what kind of places you should look for and what are the ways of executing things. Could that be malware? Very much. And the typical analyst would hide Microsoft entries because it's Microsoft, so we don't need to see these entries. Interesting so far? Yeah? Okay. Good. I like to hear that. Okay, good. So let's move forward. In case of services, now this is also very cool. I've got a service, get service, here we go, name PJ service. It's there, yeah, easy. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna hide it. I'm gonna hide it by using the SDDL. And SDDL, in fact, that's the Security Descriptor Definition Language. It's a language that describes us permissions for services. To be fair, when I'm recruiting people to my team, I'm always asking them questions about the SDDL. It's a very torturing question, and not many people really know how that works. And you guys need to know how that works. Why? Because if I'm going to hide that service, here we go, then when I'm going to run that query, get service, PJ service, I'm not getting the service. It just says like, cannot find any service like that. Nope. Okay, well that's interesting. How can I find that kind of a service then? Well, maybe we could actually go to Autoruns. Why not? And when I'm going to go to Autoruns, yeah, then I can refresh the services. And if the service is running, you will see it. But if it's disabled, you will not see it. But it's still there. Interesting, right? So you might still have a danger, but it will not show up in the tool. So have a look. How did we find it over there? Well, then we could be like, oh, maybe I should go to the services. Then have a look. There is a in blue Pola service. I will refresh it. It disappears. because I have just changed the permissions. There is no Poola service who can actually start and stop it. So interesting though is that if we're gonna do set service, and then, but I need to of course know the name, which is not the case, PJ service, and then status post, for example, then it tells me the Poola service, PJ service, let me enlarge, cannot be configured. Aha, so it finds it. So it depends who you ask at the end. Yeah, so at the end, what is also important is that we review what is in the registry for forensics, and we review, and we've got an appropriate tools, like for example, outruns for the service. Because if, let me unhide it, of course, if the service is running, and we're gonna run it right now, yeah, and then we've got the Poola service, and then we can do properties, and then we can do automatic for start, and then we can start it, and then that's it. Yeah. Then, of course, within the outruns, where is it? We will be able, after refreshing, to see it. Yeah. So under certain conditions, we can see things. And yet again, when we are analyzing, oh, do you think there's any service hidden? Going to services MSC, going to outruns, it's not enough. That's my point. So more. What else we got? Well, permissions. Okay, this is my favorite, but it's also pretty straightforward, but it's also very important to understand the logic behind permissions. Let me show you something, and that's going to be an easy warming up question. Have a look. So I've got over there guest, and that guest account on the file, that's file.txt, has two checkboxes selected. That looks a little weird because two of the checkboxes are black. Normally one of them is gray. Yeah, but no, this time it's black. So here's a tricky question for you guys. Very tricky. I'm tricking you. What's the permission of guest? Guest, by the way, has a red circle because it's disabled, so please ignore that. What's the permission of guest? Can guest open a file or no? Yes or no? Yes, no. Decide. Okay, let me ask this question. Who of you would say that guest cannot open a file? Because I tricked you, yeah? Okay, here we go. So not that many. Who of you would say guest can open a file? Okay, good. More of you, it's like more than 50%. But in most of the cases, people will say no, because there is a common knowledge that deny takes precedence, right? And in Windows, deny is not winning permission. It's not. And I know that it's a kind of like a Santa Claus does not exist type of information right now, but the thing is that when you go over there, this is an important thing, but I will get back to it. Over there, what we can see is that when we go to the effective access, select a user, and then we go guest, and then we do view effective access, you can see that guest actually has access. So what's happening? Well, simple case. Here, allow is on the top, and it overrides deny, which is on the bottom. Order is winning in Windows. And it's a common thing to know that it's actually a deny, not a deny anymore. So just for the reference, and of course that window that we could see over there was about reordering permissions without really seeing them. So that's really, really weird as well, because how can you do that? Okay, the power of misconfiguration. Now, whenever we are thinking about what could be potentially the problem, what I would love to show you is basically a misconfiguration. Very serious. Always allowing to become a domain admin, just like that, as literally no one. So first, when you do particularly the password spray, and you are able to become a domain user, what I would love to get you to, it's simply the DFS Scores attack. Because within the DFS Scores, within the James Bond account, we can specify as a regular user over there, we will be able actually to overuse the certification authority website. So that is coming a little bit from the Petit Potam background, but let me tell you a little bit about it in a second. So what we've got, CA Raccoons PL. So we see over there the Raccoons CA, and when we get to the website, CA Raccoons PL certificate request website, we can in fact, just for the test, authenticate as James Bond over there, and then over there we will see that we are in fact just logging on to the website. We can request a certificate. You can see the old ASP over there, and then we can of course overuse this website really, really heavily. So what we're gonna do? Well, simply as James Bond, if or as any other user that we got credentials for, it could be domain user, whatever, what we're going to be doing, let's log in over there, we will be overusing, of course, that existence from the DFS-Cores attack. So DFS-Cores script, so the one within the POI, and here I'm going to be using James Bond credentials that we managed, for example, to get by using the password spray. It allows us actually to overuse MS, DFS, NM, and we're going to open a second console over there just to be listening and getting a certificate that we got. So sudo su, password, okay, and then over there we're just going to be running the in-packet toolkit, so in-packet NTLM relay X, so the one that allows us for this IP, as you can see, perfect, that allows us to actually be here getting a certificate of the domain controller computer. So DFS-Cores as a James Bond, let's do it. It's just enough to run it. It's that simple. My grandma could do it. And eventually, you could see that on the other side, we've got a SMB to support target. We are specifying the website with that ASP that we've mentioned, ADCS, and then we've got a template Kerberos authentication. So in this case, we are attacking through the MSDFS NM, and at the end, when we just run it, and then when we just run the DFS-Cores, based on the fact that there is this website and it exists, we will be actually able to pull out here a certificate, and everything is happening automatically, of that particular domain controller computer. So right now, we are getting certificate. Now the certificate is up. Now what we're gonna do, so this is, as you can see, base 64 lookalike certificate, and that base 64 lookalike certificate we will be able to put indirectly into Kakao to get the token of the domain controller computer. And just a reminder, we started with a domain user, yeah? So this is important to know because there's an easy fix for that, yeah? So you can enforce Kerberos authentication on that website, or you can just simply disable that website. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take that certificate, put it on in the text file. It's gonna be a little bit easier to work with this, to be honest. And then we're gonna be submitting that certificate as we are authenticating to that to our domain at the end to get the ticket, of course, of the domain controller. So at the end, yeah, let's bring on the command prompt. And right now, we're going to be using Kakao. So that's the part of the, as you could see, it was recognized by antivirus, but we could be using this from that and doing this from the separate computer. And the next part over there is that we will be putting on that certificate to authenticate actually to the network. So we got a tools, Kakao, x64, Kakao.exe, and over there, we will specify the input to be base 64. So because, I mean, we could convert it as well, we could make a PFX from it, whatever, but why not? Why not base 64? So then we get an input, and then we will specify, of course, the Kakao part. So we got it, yeah, so we copy that, and then we're gonna do the ask TGT. So TGT ask, and then the next part, we gotta specify the user that we wanna get it from. So DC1 domain controller computer, domain raccoons.pl, and then the next stage is PTT to get the ticket, PFX, and then we put that guy on the whole thing in a base 64. I know it's not very user-friendly, but that's okay. Yeah, so we got it. And then authentication happens, we are getting a ticket, as simple as this, and then of course it takes a little moment because we have to authenticate by using certificate, then it's okay. Now we got the ticket, and now question of the universe is, who are we? And as you can see, we are right now the DC1, and right now we are basically, you can actually check it in a different way, so we can actually be a domain controller. So over there you can see that if we do klist, it's a pure DC1 ticket, and now we can do anything that we imagined as a kid. So long story short, what is important here is that we need to know, of course, what are these misconfigurations, legacy things, Petit Potam has been a problem, but then we've got the DFS cores, and when the Petit Potam case is slightly fixed, then there's another angle that comes to place, so we need to understand the risk. And the reason why I was showing you this is because almost in every company we see the website that is from the PKI configuration that you can get access through. That's why at the beginning I was saying pen testing is boring, and hopefully you see why, because every time there is this website and you're like doing that, and you know. Okay, so threat hunting skills. Oh yeah, this is so important. And we might be thinking, why? When we got these amazing tools, but the detection rates, in fact, aren't that great. So long story short, there are 4 reasons that we identified as a reason for the low detection rate. One is going to be the understaffing, so we don't have anybody to handle that big mess that's going on there in some software, and that procedures are not in place because it's not enough people. We've got also the alert fatigue. It's a lot of that. Also, we might not have knowledge what to do. So when there is a problem, what kind of information we should seek for, or should we even seek for it? Maybe it should be just given to us. It's better. And also, sometimes we see the cuts on cybersecurity. So whenever we are thinking about the threat hunting skills, they are actually relying on 4 items: our expertise, the intelligence, the good tools, and the procedures. And what is really nice to do in the company is to grow these skills. And that's why we've got a new term that's called hypothesis-based threat hunting. And this is nothing but imagining a problem. So you imagine a problem, and then you are like, okay, let's find out how and what's my team's skill set so that they can find that problem. Yeah, as we know, easy thing. So when we look for the data, there is always some kind of a shadow data, as we call it, that we can find in infrastructure, that during the forensic activity after the attack, that data is like not gathered anywhere, but then it's actually a great source of information. For example, USN Journal, for example, Prefetch, and so on. So whenever we are thinking about that, what is important for us, and that's a good lesson, is to think what kind of sources of information we have. Maybe there's missing something, maybe you are not collecting something, but you need to have that good statement to help you with the incident. Now, when you do the threat hunting, you search for, of course, you do the memory dump and so on, you do the disk dump, you look for network connections, blah, blah, blah. This is an easy list. But this list is a little bit more difficult, and you will not find it anywhere, only on this slide because I wrote it. But at the end, you've got like different interesting places, and that's not everything too, because you have a specific apps. And these apps also have data. So maybe that could actually give you information about who was logging on and where, or at least a timeline. So that kind of places define your capacity and capability about finding what's going on. Now, that's why I say knowledge is a key, because let me show you a very pleasant situation here. So I've got workstation. This workstation has malware on it. Yeah, now it's a lot of details over there, but I'm gonna sort by the verified signer, yeah, for the reference, and let me show you. And over there, everything is like Microsoft Corporation, Microsoft Windows, and stuff like that, besides the Protos Hacker itself that I'm using, which is not coming from Microsoft. So it looks very okay. It's not. And when we are talking about our threat hunting skills, one of the things that we should definitely check for is for the different memory patterns. Yeah, just an example. For example, when we have an executable file, it starts with a header that is MZ. And MZ actually comes, these are the initials, by the way, that comes from the Polish guy, by the way, named Marek Żbikowski. And when he created an executable in MS-DOS times, he actually put his initial in front of the file. How cool is that, by the way? Yeah? So now there, I guess there's no space for this, but yeah, just imagine your initial in millions of files. This is really cool. Anyway, so we've got, for example, here run.dll, and I'm picking it because I know that the threat is inside. When we go to the modules over there, yeah, I'll be able to see that there is potentially something that we might be actually interested in. And this is our run.dll that we are running. So let me actually initiate malware over here, where I'm going to start a run.dll process. So this is a clean one. And then we've got a run.dll that is basically on the other side, that let me see, that basically we would be able to play with. So at the end, check, just a second, I got a little thing over there. Okay, yes, so this is good. So okay, and then right now I think it should be good. So at the end, we've got that run DLL. For some reason it's not, no, it's running, it's just that it kind of put itself over there. Good. So this is perfect right now. We can see that we've got some loadings over there. So it could be modules, but it could be also directly injected in the memory. So when we are analyzing that kind of case, we should know what we are looking for. And if I go to the memory, for example, what I should be looking for, it's a flag that's like RWX, for example, so that I can read, write, and execute from the places. And as in fact, you can see that this run DLL, because it has an injection, you can see that there is an RWX inside. Now, if I will go, by the way, and sort by the name as well, and look, for example, for that address here, I can see that because of what is loaded in the memory of the run DLL, there is an MZ inside. So one of the basic hunting skills involves at first, doing the memory dump and then searching for the patterns like that to see what possible threat you might be actually dealing with, because sometimes things may not be just like that in our faces. So at the end, this is a pretty simple demonstration which actually shows us the way of how we need to focus and we need to grow the skill set in order to be able to respond to an incident. Now, defining incident response readiness. What is interesting here? In the slide deck, I got a list for you. It's not an exciting list to show in today, but it's a helpful list to use later. And if you wonder what happens when the hacker takes over an ID, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6 items to check for, yeah? It's a list. So we've got this in our documentation. So this is basically the list that you go through, that when you experience this kind of an attack, you're gonna be like, okay, point number 1, reset Kirby TTT accounts passwords hash twice. Point number 2, reset the KDS root key, thank you. Point number 3, reset all of the user's passwords, you're just starting. Point number 4, and so on, yeah? So just to tell you, we could have like a day about this, but this list is absolutely important, and not many people have that list. So please enjoy it, because this is basically when hacker gets into your ID. So whenever we are thinking about the last part and supporting yourself with AI, we've got the knowledge about like finding really what we need. And I believe everybody talks about AI, and I don't want to do it, don't get me wrong. But my point over there is that how can we leverage AI maybe a little bit to help us to grow in cybersecurity? And KQL as a language is like, okay, I have a challenge, I have to learn this. Yet another thing in cybersecurity, I agree. But what if we could have a ChatGPT with the KQL? And it might be like very unpopular what I will say right now, and obviously I have to say that don't put any confidential information over there, but why not, for example, asking yourself a question about how to build a query that's going to tell you something. And what's the result of that? And this is the recorded demo that we got, because it's sometimes hard to predict the output, because that's what ChatGPT is about, but have a look. Please show me KQL query for Sentinel, which will search for TeamViewer on all of the devices. Certainly, here it is. Is it a good one or not? You, of course, have to analyze that, but then you go to the Sentinel and you're like, okay, I'm learning, let's see what we got. And then you can see that computer name is underlined. And of course it's wrong. So we're gonna learn this by mistake. And this is how you can very nicely grow, even in a demo environment, to be more efficient in seeking for information when the problem, and hopefully never, appears, or when you are doing the threat hunting that is hypothesis-based. So let's change the computer name to the computer, and then of course we will do run, and then we've got here an output. So as you can see, with the very easy method, we are able to grow and educate yourself like that. And it's not just Sentinel, it's Defender, it's everything. Yeah? So you just need to write which language you would like to use, and then you're going to get the query when you know what to search for. So at the end, leveraging these tools could be also a very good booster and very good lesson for the situation that you may not want to experience. Summarizing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, investing into human factor, as you can see, because that's where the threat starts. Absence of insights, looking for persistence, knowing basically where to seek for information that is in your infrastructure, maybe before the attack, maybe after, doesn't matter, but very popular thing right now is to search for things that we don't know. So some of our customers are like, can you come over and see that there's possibly someone there? Because we hear stories like, hacker has been there for like 12 months, yeah, and so on. And we experience them by ourselves. Checking for the legacy configuration, misconfiguration, like for example, the certificate website we're talking about. Threat hunting skills, crazy important. Defining the incident response readiness, that list. And of course, don't forget that AI might be actually used by us for the educational purpose. So, summarizing, as you can see, if I would prioritize an activity from this session to have a look at is, are you incident response ready? And do you have all the components that are necessary to go smoothly when things happen? And this is basically the message that I would love to spread and the question that I would love to ask. If you have, guys, any questions, I'll be happy to take them outside. And of course, thank you so much. Here I've got some lanyards and stickers. If you are interested, come over. I love raccoons and you're going to find them there. Thank you so much.